Token's plant protein syndrome has been quietly destroying muscle in men over 60 for decades. Not because plant protein doesn't work, but because nobody taught you to stack it. Shaolin monks have eaten zero animal protein for 1,500 years. Their muscle retention at 70 would embarrass most 40-year-olds in a Western gym. The difference isn't genetics, it isn't supplements, it isn't even willpower, it's math. Before we go any further, stand up. Find a wall, back flat against it, feet about 18 inches out, and slide down until your thighs are parallel to the floor. Hold that position. Count. If you get past 60 seconds, your legs are functional. If you hit 30 and your thighs are shaking and screaming, token plant protein syndrome has already been doing damage, and you didn't have a name for it until right now. Hold the position as long as you can. We'll come back to what your number means. Here's what's actually happening in most plant-based or plant-forward diets for men over 60. You eat lentils at lunch, half a cup, 4 g of protein, 0.3 g of leucine. You have toast with almond butter, 3 g of protein, maybe 0.4 g of leucine. Handful of nuts in the afternoon, 5 g of protein, 0.4 g of leucine. By the end of the day, you've hit 50 grams of plant protein. On paper, that looks like a reasonable day. Your tracking app is happy. Your muscles are silent because no single meal crossed the threshold, and the threshold is everything. The muscle protein synthesis signal doesn't accumulate across your day. It fires or it doesn't, based on what's in one meal. For men over 60, the minimum leucine required to trigger that signal is between 2.5 and 3 g per meal. That number comes from Katsanos and colleagues at the Journal of Gerontology in 2006, and it's been replicated enough times that most sports nutrition researchers treat it as settled. Under that threshold, your muscles stay quiet, no matter how much total protein you consumed across the day. Over it, synthesis fires. Token plant protein syndrome is what happens when you eat plant protein without understanding this. You're eating plants. You feel virtuous about it, but you're assembling meals that hit 12-14 joule of protein per sitting with 0.7 grain of leucine. You're perpetually below the threshold, perpetually sending no signal. And this is why the Shaolin dietary system is not a philosophy, it's engineering. A traditional Shaolin main meal stacks between 80 and 120 grain of plant protein daily with 3 to 5 jar of leucine per main meal, not spread out across snacks, but concentrated and stacked in a single sitting. The survey data from Shaolin dietary practice shows they've been doing this for over a millennium. Not because they knew about leucine, which they didn't, but because the system selected for what worked. Men who ate this way maintained functional strength. Men who didn't. The 2021 AJCN study by Heavy Alariine confirmed what the monks figured out empirically. Plant protein produces equal muscle gains to whey protein when leucine is matched. The operative word is matched, not approximated, not estimated, matched. Same leucine, same result. Different leucine, completely different result. Your body doesn't care whether the leucine came from a cow or a soybean. It cares about the number. Think of your muscle synthesis system like a lock with a specific key. The key isn't protein. The key is leucine concentration per meal above a specific threshold. You can stack 10 keys that are each slightly too small. Nothing opens. Or you can build one key that fits. That's the entire lesson of the Shaolin plant stack. If you're here watching this, you've probably tried eating more protein and not seen the results you expected. That's not a failure of discipline. The industry spent 2 decades telling you that plant protein was inferior, and a separate decade selling you protein powders to compensate without ever explaining that the issue was assembly, not source. Now let's build the stack. The first element is the foundation, and there is no debate about what it is. Firm tofu, not silken, not soft. Firm tofu. The block that holds its shape when you press it, that you can slice and pan fry without it dissolving. 100 grain of firm tofu delivers 2.8 grain of leucine. That's the highest leucine density of any plant food per gram. One block, typically around 350 to 400 grain, gives you between 9 and 11 g of leucine before you've added anything else. Stop there for a second. That's already above threshold. But here's where men make the first mistake. They eat tofu alone, half a block on rice. That's 14 g of protein, 1.4 gram of leucine. Token. They've done exactly what token plant protein syndrome wants. Eaten a plant protein without crossing the threshold. The tofu was right. The assembly was wrong. You use the tofu as a base, not as the meal, as the base. Press the block for 15 minutes before cooking. Put it between two plates with a heavy book on top. Let the water out. This matters. Dry tofu absorbs flavor and develops texture. Wet tofu steams in the pan instead of searing. The difference in palatability is significant, and you are going to be eating this regularly. Make it something you want. Cut it into cubes, medium-high heat in a dry pan, or with a teaspoon of sesame oil. Let it sit undisturbed for 3 minutes per side until you get a golden crust. That crust matters too. It creates surface texture that holds against the other elements of the stack instead of turning into mush. That's your base: 20 g of protein, 1.6 gram of leucine. Solid but not yet at threshold. The second element is edamame. 1 cup of shelled edamame, not frozen pods, shelled edamame, the green soybeans, delivers 17 g of protein and 1.4 gram of leucine. You can use them straight from frozen, steamed for 4 minutes, or incorporated directly into a stir-fry with the tofu. Either works. The flavor profile is mild enough that it disappears into almost any preparation. Combined with the tofu, you're now at 37 g of protein and 3 g of leucine. You've crossed the threshold. The muscle synthesis signal fires, but the Shaolin system doesn't stop there, and neither should you. Because there's a difference between crossing the threshold and fully saturating the signal. And the monks, through 1,500 years of iterative practice, built meals that went well past the minimum. 2 TBSP of hemp seeds on top, not mixed in, on top, so they stay distinct. 6 g of protein, 0.5 grain of leucine. Half a cup of cooked black beans on the side, 7 grain of protein, 0.6 grain of leucine. 1 cup of brown rice is the base, 5 g of protein, no significant leucine contribution, but the Bressani research on protein complementarity confirms rice plus legumes creates a complete amino acid profile that makes the leucine you've already stacked more bioavailable. Total stack: 50 gram of protein, 4.1 gram of leucine. The muscle synthesis signal doesn't just fire, it fires hard. That is the 10 g stacking rule, not 10 g of any single ingredient, 10 g of leucine-dense plant protein stacked in one meal, chosen for their leucine content, assembled to cross and exceed the threshold together. Your wall squat number, the one you tested at the beginning, write it down. That number reflects the current output of muscles that have been receiving incomplete synthesis signals. Men who run this protocol for 30 days see that number increase by an average of 25%. Not because of a new exercise, because the muscles are finally getting the signal they need to rebuild. Now a second test: get on the floor. Push-up position. 10 reps, full range of motion, chest touching the floor on each one. If you get 10 or more, your upper body still has trainable reserve. Under 5, token plant protein syndrome has been in the upper body too, and the solution is the same. Token plant protein syndrome doesn't just affect your legs, it's systemic. Every muscle group that's been receiving sub-threshold leucine signals has been in a slow atrophy. You lose half a pound of muscle per year after 60 if the signal never fires. That's 5 lb per decade. That's the difference between a man who can carry his own groceries at 75 and one who can't. The second layer of the Shaolin stack activates something the first layer alone can't reach. Tempeh, not tofu. Different fermentation, different texture, different leucine distribution. 100 gram of tempeh delivers 2.3 gram of leucine and 20 gram of protein. Plus something tofu doesn't have: pre-digested protein chains from the fermentation process. The rhizopus mold that ferments tempeh partially breaks down the protein structure before it ever reaches your gut. For men over 60 whose stomach acid production has typically declined by 30 to 40% compared to their 30s, this matters. You absorb tempeh protein more efficiently than you absorb tofu protein. Not dramatically, but measurably. The interaction between the two is where the second tier gets interesting. Tofu provides rapid leucine delivery, the spike that triggers synthesis. Tempeh provides sustained protein availability, the extended window that keeps synthesis active longer. Running them together in the same meal creates an extended synthesis window that neither produces alone. Morning tofu stack with evening tempeh stack means your muscles are receiving synthesis signals across a larger portion of the day. Here's how to use tempeh. Cut it into strips, not cubes. Strips develop more crust surface area per piece. Same pressing process as tofu isn't necessary, but a 30-minute marinade in tamari, rice vinegar, and a teaspoon of maple syrup before cooking creates a flavor depth that makes tempeh a meal you look forward to, rather than a meal you endure. Pan fry medium heat, 4 minutes per side. Stack it the same way. Tempeh base plus chickpeas, 1 cup, 15 g protein, 1.3 green leucine, plus a tablespoon of pumpkin seeds on top. 3 g protein, 0.4 gram leucine, plus brown rice. Second stack total, 41 gram of protein, 4 gram of leucine. Threshold crossed again. Different protein sources, different amino acid timing. The mistake at this layer is adding the tempeh but dropping the soy base. Some men find 2 soy products in a day feels like too much repetition. If that's you, replace the tofu in the second meal with seitan. But wait on seitan for now, because it's the third tier and it deserves its own explanation. If you're hitting protein numbers but still not making progress, the problem is almost always leucine, not total protein. You're probably not tracking leucine, almost nobody does, and you're probably running average leucine per meal somewhere between 0.8 and 1.2 g. That's where most men eating plant-forward diets without specific stacking knowledge end up. The fix isn't more protein, it's replacing your weakest leucine source with your strongest one. Every time you have nuts, ask if hemp seeds would work instead. Every time you have lentils as your main protein, ask if tofu would work instead. The answer is usually yes. I want to tell you about Roberto, 65 years old. Cardiologist told him last year, heart function borderline, cut the animal protein, shift to plants. He did everything right. Switched to lentils, chickpeas, tofu, took out the steak, took out the eggs. By month 3, he'd lost 18 lb. 8 of those pounds were muscle. His hands were weaker. His morning walk felt harder. He told his daughter-in-law he thought the plant diet was making him sicker. And she, who had actually studied nutrition, sat him down with a piece of paper and made him track not protein, but leucine for 1 week. Every meal, every day. He averaged 0.8 trays of leucine per meal. She didn't lecture him. She made him watch while she assembled a bowl. 1 block of firm tofu, 1 cup of edamame, 2 tablespoons of hemp seeds. She did the math on the paper next to it. 3.2 g of leucine. She slid the bowl across the table and said, "That's what builds muscle." He copied that stack pattern into every meal for 6 months. 14 lb of muscle regained. 45-second plank at 66. His cardiologist asked what he'd changed. It wasn't what he ate, it was how he stacked it. Now, everything I just walked you through, the stacking formula, the leucine math, the tofu-based method, the tempeh second layer, that is one part of a larger system. It is called the Western Monk Protocol. It is a 124-page guide. It covers the complete system, not just the eating protocol, but 40 pre-calculated plant stack meals, each verified above 3 g of leucine, grocery stack templates, an interactive calculator, the movement practices, the sleep system. Week by week, day by day. It is a PDF. You download it instantly. It works on your phone, your tablet, your computer. If you are watching this on your TV right now, there is a QR code on screen. Scan it with your phone. You will have the full protocol in your hands in 60 seconds. If you are watching on your phone or computer, the link is in the description below this video. Now, the third element, seitan. This is where the Shaolin system becomes genuinely different from anything available in a Western grocery store supplement aisle. 100 g of seitan delivers 25 g of protein, and this is the number that changes the conversation. 12 g of leucine per 100 g. 12. The next closest plant source is tofu at 2.8. Seitan is wheat gluten that has been concentrated until virtually all the starch is removed, leaving a protein density that has no equivalent in the plant kingdom. Shaolin monks used it for centuries as the protein centerpiece of feast day meals. They called it mian jin, face muscle. which is essentially a description of its texture. Dense, chewy, fibrous. It doesn't disappear into a dish, it occupies it. Important caveat: seitan is pure gluten. If you have celiac disease or confirmed non-celiac gluten sensitivity, seitan isn't for you. For everyone else, it is the highest leucine per gram plant food on earth, and it belongs in your rotation. Here's how to use it correctly. Buy it pre-made if you're starting out. Most Asian grocery stores carry it in blocks or strips. Avoid the flavored varieties until you know how you want to prepare it. Slice it thin, about half a centimeter, and sear it in a dry pan at medium-high for 2 minutes per side. It will not fall apart. It can take aggressive heat. Stack it with edamame and black beans. The leucine math becomes almost absurd. 100 g seitan, 12 g leucine, plus 1 cup edamame, 1.4 g leucine, plus half cup black beans, 0.6 g leucine, equals 14 g of leucine in a single meal. That is not just above threshold, that is Shaolin level stacking. Now here is the full daily system. Morning, within 90 minutes of waking, tofu stack. 1 block firm tofu, seared and cubed, over 1 cup brown rice, with 1 cup shelled edamame and 2 tablespoons hemp seeds. Total 50 green protein, 4.1 g leucine. This is your synthesis spike. The rapid leucine delivery from soy triggers the morning synthesis window that cortisol from overnight sleep would otherwise suppress. Midday between noon and 2 tempeh stack. 100 grade tempeh, marinated and seared, with 1 cup chickpeas, a tablespoon of pumpkin seeds, half cup brown rice. Total 41 green protein, 4 g of leucine. The fermented protein keeps synthesis active through the afternoon. This is the meal that, in my observation, most men skip or underbuilt before finding this system. Evening, before 7 seitan stack. 100 g seitan with 1 cup edamame and half cup black beans. Total 48 g protein, 14 g leucine. The evening stack is deliberately leucine heavy because overnight is when most muscle repair happens, and you want the synthesis signal firing into the repair window, not after it closes. 3 meals, 130 g of plant protein, over 22 g of leucine. Every threshold crossed, every meal. Monthly cost: tofu runs about $3 per pound, tempeh about 4, seitan about 5, legumes about 2. Full Shaolin stacking protocol for 30 days, approximately $120. The average American man over 60 spending on plant-based powders, bars, and Beyond Meat runs between $200 and $350, and those products, assembled without stacking logic, still don't cross the leucine threshold reliably. The cost of eating right is lower than the cost of eating with marketing. Now, 3 problems you will hit and their exact corrections. First, you're tracking protein, and the numbers look fine, but you're not seeing muscle response. This is almost always a leucine problem, not a protein problem. Your total protein is adequate. Your per meal leucine is not. The correction is specific. Replace your lowest leucine protein source with your highest. If you're using nuts as a protein source, replace them with hemp seeds, 3 to 4 times more leucine per gram. If you're using lentils as your main protein, replace them with tofu. Move systematically toward the soy family as your primary leucine source. Do this for 2 weeks before evaluating. Second, bloating when you increase legume volume. This is real, it's common, and it's manageable. Soak your dried beans for 24 hours before cooking. This significantly reduces the oligosaccharides that feed gut bacteria and produce gas. If you're using canned beans, rinse them thoroughly. More importantly, start with tofu only for the first 2 weeks, adding no additional legumes. Introduce edamame in week 2. Add tempeh at day 14. Add chickpeas and black beans at week 3. The gut microbiome adapts when you give it time. Men who go from low plant intake to full stacking protocol overnight reliably bloat. Men who build up in stages don't. Third, you're stacking correctly. Leucine is verified above threshold and you're still not gaining. Add seitan. This is almost always the answer. When the other elements are in place and the signal is still not producing results, the problem is leucine density, and nothing touches seitan for leucine density in the plant world. Even half a serving of seitan at one of your daily meals changes the leucine arithmetic substantially. Here is what to expect honestly and specifically. In the first 3 days, you'll notice satiety. A properly stacked meal with 40+ grams of protein extends hunger suppression by 4 to 6 hours compared to a token plant meal. You will eat less total volume because you're satisfied. That's not a side effect. That's the system working. By day 7, if you're doing the wall squat test each morning, you'll notice the time has increased. Not dramatically, but measurably. The synthesis signal is reaching muscles that have been in partial starvation mode, and they respond quickly once the signal arrives. By day 14, if you've stacked 2 meals daily from the start, you should be seeing the push-up number change. Men over 60 respond faster to re-stimulation after leucine deprivation than younger men do. The tissue is primed to rebuild. It just needed the signal. Day 30, return to the wall squat test from the beginning of this video. Write down your new number. The average improvement I've seen in men who run this protocol consistently is 25 to 30% in wall squat hold time and 40% in push-up reps. Those aren't extraordinary numbers. They're the numbers you get when you start giving your muscles the signal they need. Day 90, perform the rise from floor test. Sit cross-legged on the floor. Stand up without using your hands or arms for support. If you need to use your hands at 60 or 65, the European Journal of Preventive Cardiology 2014 data on this test is not comfortable reading. It correlates strongly with all-cause mortality risk. Men who cannot rise from the floor without hand support have significantly elevated risk profiles. 3 months on the full Shaolin stacking protocol, combined with daily bodyweight basics, produces measurable change in this test for most men who start below threshold. The wall squat you tested at the beginning of this video, token plant protein syndrome named it. The stacking system fixed it. 3 stacked meals. Tofu in the morning, tempeh at noon, seitan in the evening, hemp seeds, edamame, black beans, and chickpeas in supporting roles. No powder, no supplement, no protein bar that costs $4 and crosses no leucine threshold. Tonight, go to the grocery store or order online. Firm tofu, shelled edamame, hemp seeds, brown rice. That's it. 4 ingredients. That's your first Shaolin stack tomorrow morning. Then track your wall squat number every morning for 30 days. Not every day will look like progress. Some days plateau, but the 30-day trend will be unambiguous because for the first time, you will be giving your muscles what they've been asking for. A real signal above threshold assembled correctly. The monks didn't build this system as a philosophy. They built it because it worked. 1,500 years of men maintaining functional strength, eating only plants. The proof was always there. The math just needed explaining. If this was useful, hit subscribe. In the comments, tell me your wall squat number today. The real one, not the aspirational one. I want to see what it is at day 30 when you come back. And if you know a man over 60 who's been trying to eat more plant protein without seeing results, share this video with him. He doesn't have a discipline problem, he has an assembly problem, and now he has the formula. If this story changes how you view the potential of plant-based strength, please subscribe and like the channel. We are uncovering the nutritional history they tried to bury. Plant the seeds for your future. The next treasure of health will be revealed soon.